Welcome to what's going to be another great DevNTell. So if you didn't know, DevNTell is a 30-minute window for members of the DAO to showcase something they're passionate about or have been working on. This can be an awesome project you've been working on, demonstrating unit testing best practices, automation goodies, smart contracts, how to structure a project. Basically, if you got a passion for something, this is your opportunity to share it with the community. And today I'm happy to have on Trevor, who is going to be showing off his project, Blockin. Take it away, Trevor.
Thank you. Yeah, so hello, I'm Trevor Miller. Let me just get my screen shared real quick. Let me know if you guys can see this and if the audio is good.
Yep, we can see it. And audio is fine, yeah.
Sweet. And let me just check if I switch tabs. Can you see this too?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, so welcome. Today I'm going to be presenting my project Blockin, which aims to be a universal sign-in standard for Web3. Before I start, let me just say that whoever wants to ask questions, we don't have to wait till the end. Just interrupt, or if you're confused about anything, just let me know. I will stop periodically, maybe for questions, and then have a Q&A at the end too, if you have any.
I just have a question. Maybe you could put in like a link, like say Twitter or your website, if you have one, in the chat, and for us to get more information about the project.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you.
Would that be which channel?
So there's on the side, if you at the top right side, there's a little chat icon. If you click that, the chat is embedded in this in the actual developer's voice now.
Yeah, if you put your mouse over the developer's voice, you'll see like a square box that'll open the chat.
Okay, cool.
Thank
So
you.
I'll put in 3 links, or 2 links actually. First is the demo site that you can follow along with. The second is the documentation site. And yeah, and then those will have links to the code and everything needed for like the NPM and stuff like that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so let's get started. So I'm Trevor Miller, trevormil.eth, and I am a computer science student at Virginia Tech. I've been building in Web3 for about over a year, I think since like last January-ish. But this is my favorite project so far, I have to say. And I've been in developer now since Mint. And actually, if any of you guys remember, at Mint time, there was like this issue with some of the images not loading, and it would just be like a continuous loading spinner. And I actually was lucky enough to get one of those. And in compensation, I got sent the one with ID number 1. So I held that for a while. And so, a little fun fact.
Nice.
And then, how did Blockin start? Basically, I took an intro blockchain course at Virginia Tech, and my group, it was a group project, and we basically had to do like a deliverable and like a paper by the end of the semester, and that's kind of how it started. And I continued it on throughout the summer and built it out into actually something usable for Web3 devs. Okay, so I'll start with a little background for connecting versus signing in. So connecting is what you like are probably familiar with typical dApps. You connect your wallet via MetaMask and then send like a transaction signature every time you want to like add or update to the blockchain. But signing in is more used for like off-chain stuff, like maybe like a private database or just anything off-chain. And for those, you don't need to put it in the transaction format. You just need to like verify that a message was signed correctly, right? So for signing in, you sign like this generated message, and then if you can authenticate who you are, you can be granted access to that off-chain database using your like Ethereum address, for example. An example of this is if you guys have used OpenSea, they use transaction signatures for stuff that like actually updates the blockchain, such as like NFT transfers or sales. But then they have their own private backend for stuff like likes, follows, stuff like that, and they have this like sign-in mechanism where you're like authenticated for 24 hours. If you've ever used OpenSea, you might be familiar with that. So these are two different things. They can be used in combination. So you connect your wallet and then you sign the message with your connected wallet, pretty much. So the execution flow is pretty similar to signing a transaction. You will be prompted to sign like a uniquely generated message with your private key, such as like this one on the right. And then one thing to note is this won't be added to the chain. It's just checked for signature. So like if you try and broadcast this message to the network, it won't be formatted correctly. But if the message signature pair is deemed valid, a resource provider can safely grant access because that only the person who signed it should know the private key, so they can grant access to the public key, pretty much. And this is exactly like a Web2 username password combination. And then lastly, after being authenticated, the resource provider can choose to handle permissions however they want. So like once they know that this person is who they say they are, or this address is who they say they are, you can maybe handle future logins with like session tokens or JSON web tokens, or you might just want to have them sign it in every time, which is also an acceptable solution. And if you guys are familiar with signing with Ethereum, this is the standard message format for Ethereum and signing in. It was defined in EIP 4361, and basically it looks like this message to the right. It outlines everything in a human readable way, and basically the user knows exactly what they're signing into, what's going to happen, and then also it has different protections against like replay attacks with like because the nonce is generated each time and stuff like that. And it's currently gaining a lot of popularity with Web3 apps because many Web3 apps aren't fully on chain through smart contracts or stuff like that. They also might want to use some private database for either for scalability, privacy, anything. There's a bunch of reasons why apps would want to use something not on chain. So with Blockin, we identified a couple places where signing with Ethereum does fall short, though. The first problem is that neutral applications not belonging to a specific chain or like existing Web2 applications like Netflix or maybe like a university will have like a big user base who all don't prefer the same blockchain. So for example, a neutral application who wants to tap into like some Bitcoin users and some Ethereum users, they can't only use signing with Ethereum because then that just doesn't, the Bitcoin users won't be able to interact with their app. So sign in with Ethereum is limited to one chain, and Blockin helps solve this by expanding it to like any chain. And then this transition from Web 2 to Web 3 will be made a lot easier with Blockin because of this. Signing with Ethereum doesn't require, or it doesn't limit to just one chain. So that is the main problem we identified with signing with Ethereum, but some other smaller problems are that the dev tools and libraries that signing with Ethereum currently offers are not the best, and Blockin helps create an easily integratable one. And then many use cases of signing in are not actually natively supported with Ethereum or signing with Ethereum, and such as like NFT sign-ins or stuff like that. You have to do everything separately, and it kind of just like a bunch of hoops to jump through to reach like a relatively simple goal. So Blockin kind of combines all these into one step. So what is Blockin and kind of how does it help? Blockin is a TypeScript and NPM library, and it aims, as I said, to be a universal sign-on standard to support any blockchain. And I do want to note that we extend sign-in with Ethereum. So anything you can do with sign-in with Ethereum, you can also do with Blockin. We just take that base and add some existing feature or some more features to expand the usability of sign-ins, pretty much. So as you can see on the right, we have a bunch of different chains. This is the demo site that I dropped a link to in the chat. And basically it allows neutral applications can now let their users choose what chain to sign in with, and it'll all result in the same granted access because it their private database, all they need is like an authentication, so they can treat every single chain signing algorithm as the same. So as you notice here, the chains are not all EVM compatible, which they don't have to be. So previously, signing with Ethereum was based solely on like the Ethereum signature algorithm and Ethereum like addressing format, but now Blockin helps expand it to other L1s and L2s, so you can sign in with pretty much any blockchain. And then we also envision that in the future, you can even do like a hybrid approach where you can allow your users to choose between like an existing username password Web 2 approach, or let them sign in with like a Web 3 approach, such as Blockin, as you see here. And then the last thing is that Blockin natively supports signing in and verifying ownership of NFTs on any chain that supports them. So that is a cool addition to signing with Ethereum that we support. So let's look at an example use case. I'll keep coming back to this use case throughout the presentation, but think of just Netflix and think if they want to transition to Web3, they normally have like a family plan and like a standard plan, right, for traditional Netflix accounts. You can think of that as maybe an NFT in Web3. So maybe you have a standard plan NFT and a family plan NFT. And what Netflix can do with Blockin is they can deploy one of these NFTs on every chain that they want to support, and then just let users sign in with Blockin on their own chain, and it'll query their respective chain to check for ownership of that NFT, which will all result in the same sign-in access. So if they don't own the asset on their respective blockchain, their sign-in attempt will be denied, and they won't be granted family plan access, for example. And basically, this will allow any user who wants to transition to a Web3 approach to not have to choose favorites for blockchain. So Netflix won't be limited to just Ethereum users. They can support maybe Algorand users, Bitcoin users, Solana users. Okay, so now I'm gonna maybe do it like a little backwards. I'm gonna show you the demo of what it looks like first, and then we'll get more into the technical stuff. So first, let me just open this up. This is the NFT that I'm gonna use for verifying ownership of with this address, the Lobby Lobster. And so let me go over here to the demo site. So if you see here, this little up in the blue banner is what the end user will see. So they'll have like this little display for their like address, connecting and signing in. So you can select whatever chain you want to sign in with. So for this instance, we'll do Ethereum, and then you can connect basically how existing dApps will. So for here, we connect with MetaMask, and as you can see, I'm connected now. And now if you want the user to sign in, you click the sign in button and it'll pop up with this nice modal, very similar to the Web3 modal that you saw with connecting, but it kind of displays everything in a more UI friendly way, just so that the user is not overwhelmed by like a super long and technical message. And basically, this will allow the user to customize their sign-in request. So for example, if they want to like sign in with like the blue banner asset, think of these as like different plans. Like this could be like the family plan, or this could be the standard plan. For this site, we'll do like blue banner and red banner. So let me first select these, and you can see that if I sign in with both the blue banner and the red banner, I'll get access to, it'll grant me access and I'll get a blue and red banner. You can allow users to just select only one banner. And just think of these as like different dynamic privileges you want for different sign-ins. So maybe you have an admin role or something like that. So as you see there, and the other neat thing that I mentioned was the signing in with assets, right? So for example, here it has this asset ID, which obviously isn't correct. So if I like attempt to sign in with this asset, it'll Blockin will actually deny me service because I don't own the asset, right? So you see down here, the address does not own the requested asset. But if I sign in with that Lobby Lobster address that I have here, I will be granted access because Blockin will check and verify that I do actually own the NFT. So you see, and then you're successfully granted and signed in. So that's like a little demo of how Blockin works from the end user perspective, and it's pretty much the exact same thing as like signing a transaction, but instead you're signing a message and then getting access. The last thing I want to show with this demo is that if you switch chains, for example, let's say like to Algorand, it'll customize the display, and then it'll also customize the message to maybe to your Algorand account and like address, and then it'll also verify within Algorand's native signature algorithm. So instead of using the Ethereum signature verification, you use Algorand's native signature verification. So yeah, that's the overview of Blockin, like the demo. I think now is a good time to stop and see if there's any questions on anything. I know I kind of went fast, and I'm not the best public speaker, but does anyone have anything so far?
No, man, this was great. This is pretty awesome. I guess one question from me is,
Yeah.
as you were building this, like, what kind of
Yeah.
challenges did you face, technical or otherwise?
Good question. So a big thing was that it is very difficult to come up with a good solution that can support like any blockchain. So a big struggle that we ran into was how to dynamically support apps that support like multiple chains. So like it would be pretty easy to just like build like a library just for Algorand sign in, right? Or just for Ethereum sign in. But it's kind of that the switching off and switching between users. I think that was the biggest problem. And then it was also a little difficult because we were kind of in all different directions within the class project itself. So we started off in one path, kind of focusing on like more just like authorization assets or like NFTs, and then we transitioned to more like sign-in messages and stuff like that. So it's kind of just putting it all together, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out and everything.
Yeah, excellent, man. And you mentioned that you foresee that maybe there's an opportunity to kind of mesh this in with a Web 2 sign in as well. Like, could you speak more on that and maybe like an example of what you think could be a use case of that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't have an implemented example, but if you can maybe just imagine, like, for example, here, instead of like the chain select, instead of like one of these chains, you maybe do like a select like Web 2 or select like sign in with username password.
Yeah.
And then like when you select that, instead of like a connect sign in option here, you'll just enter your username password and you'll all be granted the same access similarly as you would be signing in with a chain. It's just authenticated via password instead of your private.
Oh, I see, I see. Okay, cool, 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 cool. And is it just you working on this project, or are you with a group of folks?
It's two others. I've done a lot more of the dev work over the summer because my project mates had internships, but we all envisioned to like keep maintaining this, and it was pretty even throughout the whole like development process.
Awesome. Does anybody in the crowd have any questions for Trevor?
What are some existing competitors that might be similar? So like kind of like Wallet Connect, it's a little bit different, right? Wallet Connect, you have to like sign it every time. Um, but maybe there's other ones out there. So maybe you've heard of like Magic Connect, and I think there's like a couple others, but Magic.link, that one also claims to be like a seamless, Web3 experience for like, single sign-on for different dApps and other platforms also, like multi-chain support, etc.
Mhm.
Yeah, what are some competitors, or is that completely off?
I would say that we focus a lot more on like signing with Ethereum, and the other ones kind of focus more on like a single sign-on solution. If that makes sense, we are. I'd say it's more. I'm not too familiar with like the Magic.link or anything like that. But what I envision our like competitive advantage would be is the modularity that we provide. Basically, as you'll see later in the talk, how we can build like a whole ecosystem, like open source of Blockin, and actually keep it. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
of the best way to phrase this, but if that kind of makes sense.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's like open source. It's a little bit different than the other ones. And I'll just put it, I'm not affiliated with Magic, but
Yeah.
this that you can compare. But here you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a look and do more. I can get back to you on that. But I'll explain more of it behind the scenes in the rest of this presentation, and maybe that'll answer some more of it.
I like that it's open source. If there's other open source projects, whether it's like a web wallet or it's like a mobile wallet, so that's something that if a wallet was interested in, they could plug your code in and have that feature or whatnot. Interesting.
Yeah. We'll get through that with the chain driver implementations that I'll explain later.
Okay.
So basically, what does Blockin, like the library, provide? It provides the React UI components that you saw in the demo. Really customizable. You can like customize the modal however you want. You can customize this display however you want. The second thing is functions to help create, verify, and manipulate Blockin sign-in challenges. Basically, just parsing, creating, stuff like that. The third is chain driver implementations, which we'll get to later. And then the fourth is starter templates and tutorials. So as I've mentioned, how does it work behind the scenes? Basically customized to blockchain specific logic. And then also you can specify NFTs to sign in with. So you might be wondering throughout this, how does Blockin actually handle all this blockchain specific logic? Blockchain actually does this through a chain driver interface where we define about these 15 functions which need to be implemented in order to successfully verify a sign-in attempt. And basically whenever Blockin needs to call a blockchain specific function, it'll just call the currently set instance of this interface. So we have a set chain driver function, which you need to set before you call one of these functions. And basically it'll just call the currently set chain driver. And this chain driver can be set and unset as many times as needed. So in our demo example, we have as you see on the right, the switch case for whatever chain the user is on, and it'll dynamically return which driver to use to implement the logic. So some may need API keys for like blockchain queries, such as like looking up ownership of an NFT. Some functions don't. It's kind of just whichever ones you need, you might need an API key. And so the thing here, this is more of what we're getting into with the question. Does everyone need to implement their own chain driver? So the answer is no, because Blockin does provide some pre-implemented chain drivers as NPM libraries. So if you see here, we implement like our own. This is the Ethereum chain driver. This uses Morales SDK and Ethers.js. It can support like the main EVM chains. We also provide a Blockin algo driver as an NPM package that uses PureStake and algo SDK. And it's pretty easy to implement. Like you can see, this is only 200 lines of code, and a bunch of these functions are just like calling Ethers or just calling Morales. You don't have to like implement a lot of this stuff. It's kind of just choosing choosing how to handle each function. So all you have to do to get access to one of these is to just npm install it and then import, and then like kind of create an instance with your own like Morales keys, and then you're pretty much good to go with all this blockchain specific logic. If these chain drivers aren't what you're looking for, or you want to like add support for a new chain, it's pretty easy to do so, and it's only about 200 lines of code. And so over time, we hope to have like a whole collection of open source chain driver implementations, both built by Blockin and the community. And then basically, if you're just building a dApp, you just select, plug and play which NPM libraries, which chain drivers you want to include in your application. All you have to do is just instantiate it each time. Okay, and then lastly, we have just a little talk on the future plans for Blockin. We plan to continue to add new features to the library, support for more chains and more. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know or leave a comment on GitHub. Our intentions are for this to always be a public good, so fully open source, no monetization, no token, kind of just a library with code. And then we're always looking to onboard applications and expand the Blockin ecosystem. It's a relatively new project, so we actually don't have any current dApps using it. So it'd be greatly appreciated if y'all could help spread the word about Blockin. We think it can be useful to many developers in Web3, and especially with using sign-in with Ethereum and stuff like that. So that's about it. I know I went fast. I have a minute left for time, but I'll open up to Q&A, feedback, anything. These are the sites if you guys want to learn more. The doc site is pretty thorough if you have any questions too.
Could you leave maybe like a contact info, like whether it's email or LinkedIn, like in the messaging? And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I was going to ask about questions about the funding, but it looks like you covered it in the previous slide. So it's completely open source, no, monetary gain. But I guess how do you continue to fund the development, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Honestly, we haven't really thought that far. It's pretty new, but probably if it does like take off and get big, probably through Gitcoin or some other public goods funding. That's kind of what we have in mind. I mean, once we actually have the core base code and the foundation of it working and kind of bug free, there's not really much else to maintain except for adding new chains. And once we with the chain driver implementation, we're able to actually like outsource that. So like if other people want new chains, they can just implement their own chain driver. So maintaining it in that sense, like support for new chains can be outsourced and just open to the community. The core library isn't that big actually, and won't take too much maintenance once it's like fully working and has some battle tested and becomes battle tested.
Got it. So it's like, yeah, fully open source. Yeah, because like sometimes there's some projects out there open source, but then I guess that, maybe it does something like where it needs to communicate with servers, and then it has like a rate limitation, and you need like the key. So then there's additional way of having that project continue, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's relatively new, like I said, so we'll get around to that when it comes, but we're excited and just continuing to maintain it and as of now.
So, anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I mean the last thing I was gonna ask is if people do want to help out. I mean, you are we are here in the developer DAO. What's the best
Hmm.
way to kind of get started? Are there open issues people can pick up, or anything in particular you're looking for in terms of skill sets?
I think the main thing that could help right now is just adding more chains and adding more, even like more implementations of existing chains. So, for example, we use Morales SDK for the like Ethereum driver right now, but um, that for like the paid version, that's $40 a month, and you might just want to make like an implementation just for Etherscan, which is free. So pretty much, if you want to add support in that way, that would be amazing. Adding new like chain driver implementations, and then you can either let us know, and we can like either host it on the Blockin like GitHub itself, or maybe have like a kind of like a repository of just like all the implemented ones. The other thing, I guess, is just if there's issues on GitHub, or if you're really interested, I can add you to like a chat with other our core team, and we can add you to like our little Jira board and stuff like that, if that's of interest to you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any open source wallet out there that maybe you're thinking of, like trying to implement this feature on there? So maybe like Mycelium or Electrum, or like I know it has to be like Ethereum based, but like an open source wallet out there where maybe you build and add it to that wallet and then have like a demo on how it would work like on a mobile device. I know you need also another, dApp that can connect with. But like, you're sort of where I'm trying to go with this.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Okay.
that I haven't thought of that before, but that would be really cool. With regards to like built into the wallet itself, that'd be really cool. You
Yeah,
can
like a open source wallet you want to pick and then plug in your code so that wallet that was open source, maybe like a different branch or you forked it and then add that
mhm.
functionality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, mhm. Yeah, that would be really cool. I can definitely add that to the list, and I do want to note though that like the connect thing is also fully customizable. Where is it? So like here with Ethereum on our Blockin demo site,
Yeah.
this handles it through like Web3 model, but you don't need it. You can handle it through any way you want. It's kind of just how any way you want. Like this algorithm handles it through Wallet Connect. Um, so you can connect to any dApp right now just on the front or wallet on the front end, but
Yeah.
actually it being inbuilt would be really cool. I could definitely look into that and maybe just get like a demo or something just to demonstrate it, because that is a really cool idea.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. Plus one to that. Awesome, awesome stuff, gang. So unfortunately, we're at time here. But thank you, Trevor, for coming on and showing us this awesome project. Really looking forward to seeing its development here. Um, so with that, I want to wish everybody a happy Friday, a great weekend, wherever you may be, and we'll catch you back here next week. So I'm going to be dropping a link in the chat here for folks to claim their attendee POAPs, and Trevor, I'll send you your kudos via DM. But other than that, we'll catch you all here next time.